War II, 1939 to 1945. Approximately 85 million people died. 50 Allied nations joined forces against Germany, Japan, and other Axis powers. Among those 50 nations lived a brave young woman, Eileen Nearne, a woman in her early 20s who took the responsibility of fighting against the Axis powers as an undercover agent. A brave, courageous woman who was looked down upon despite sacrificing herself to intense torture and refusing to disclose any information that could potentially harm others if revealed to the Axis powers. Eileen Nearne, a hero.
Eileen Nearne was born in London on March 1, 1921, into a large Anglo-Spanish family, which moved to France during the interwar years, where Eileen became fluent in French. Eileen was the youngest of four and had a sister named Jacqueline Nearne and two brothers. She had an English father, John Nearne, and a Spanish mother, Marie de Pazola. When France fell, the Nearnes fled through Spain, eventually arriving in England mid-1942.
Eileen's career began in London in 1942, where she was offered a job from the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, but Eileen turned the offer down. Since Eileen was fluent in French, British intelligence offered her a job with the Special Operations Executive, also known as the SOE. Initially, Eileen stayed in Great Britain, working as a signals operator who handled messages from undercover agents abroad. Eileen was unaware that her sister, Jacqueline, and one of her brothers, Francis, were also offered jobs in the SOE. Francis and Jacqueline worked out in Nazi-occupied France. Before Eileen went out in the field, many officers doubted her ability to be successful as a spy.
January 1st, 1944. Eileen is not intelligent or practical, and she is lacking in shrewdness and cunning. She has a bad memory, is inaccurate, and scatterbrained. She seems lean, but her work is handicapped by the lack of power to concentrate. In character, she is very feminine and immature. She seems to lack all experience of the world and would probably be easily influenced by others. She is lively and amusing and has considerable charm and social gifts. She talks a lot and is anxious to draw attention to herself, but was generally liked by the other students. It is doubtful whether this student is suitable for employment in any capacity on account of her lack of experience.
Many women worked as doctors, mathematicians, engineers, and lawyers during World War II. Although the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, also known as WASP, consisted of women pilots who were essential in testing and delivering war production aircraft from the West Coast to the East Coast. Over 25 of these courageous women lost their lives while serving on these missions. Women in the SOE were very unpopular. Only 39 out of 407 SOE agents were women.
In March 1944, Eileen's time had arrived to go to France and work in the field. In Europe, the SOE's primary function was to sabotage operations, although Eileen was subjected to work as a wireless operator for the Wizard Network. The Wizard Network was created by French commander Jean Savy, who was also a member of the SOE. He used the Wizard Network to create safe houses for Allied troops and to help finance local resistance movements. When arriving to France, a Frenchman said she was too young to operate in such a dangerous field. Eileen was 23 at the time. Eileen assumed the aliases Mademoiselle Dutort and Jacqueline Duterte and set to work in Paris. Her code name was simply Rose, and her main mission was raising money and keeping open a wireless link to London. In April, the Wizard Network that Eileen was working with discovered that the Germans were preparing to launch a powerful new weapon against Great Britain called V-1 rockets. Jean Savy left for England to relay this crucial piece of intelligence personally, leaving Eileen behind to continue the wireless work. After Savvy reported the information about a large shipment of V-1 rocket warheads, or type of bomb, it was quickly destroyed by Allied nations' strategic bombers, also known as the RAF bombers. For 5 months, Eileen transmitted messages. As the Germans became better at detecting radio transmissions, her work became increasingly difficult, and many other agents got caught. To lessen the chances of getting caught, each time Eileen sent out a message, she would change locations. On July 21st, 1944, Eileen had just sent her 105th message when a Gestapo approached the building she was in. The burning papers were incriminating enough, but then they found her radio. She was taken to Gestapo headquarters where she was interrogated. She did not reveal any information, then underwent excruciating water torture. The Nazis forced water down her throat to get her to reveal any information. While she was being tortured, she managed to convince the Nazis that she was a French girl sending messages for a businessman, unaware that he was British.
At the Gestapo headquarters, they yelled at me asking who was I working for and where I was sending messages. I screamed back, insisting I had no idea what they were talking about. They took me into a room, plunged me into the bath, holding my head under the icy water. I was held under so long that I felt sure I would die. Abruptly, they pulled me out, I spewed out water and was utterly exhausted. They had got nothing from me. I managed to convince the Nazis that I was a French shop girl who knew nothing of undercover operations. They still sent me to the concentration camp.
In July 1944, subject's transmitter was detected and subject was arrested by the Gestapo. July 25th, subject claims that she was not asked to continue her transmissions. She claims, moreover, despite being tortured, she did not reveal any information detrimental to the British intelligence or its agents.
On August 15, 1944, she was sent to the Ravensbrück concentration camp. She refused to participate in any prison work and was threatened to be shot if she continued to refuse. She was then transferred to a forced labor camp in Silesia, where she was reportedly tortured. She escaped the camp with 2 French girls into the forest and hid. As they were traveling through Markelberg, they were caught by the Schutzstaffel. Although they were released after fooling the SS, they fled to Leipzig, where a priest hid them until the US troops arrived.
After the war, Nearne lived in London with her sister Jacqueline, where Eileen suffered from psychological problems brought on by her wartime service. After her sister Jacqueline died in 1982, Eileen moved to Torquay until her death. Family members discovered that they were related to a spy after Eileen died. World War II documents and medals that were awarded to Eileen were discovered in her house. After World War II, she was awarded the Croix de Guerre, also known as the Bravery Award, by the French government. On February 19, 1946, she was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire, or MBE, by King George VI for services in France during the enemy occupation. Unfortunately, Eileen passed due to a heart attack. There were hundreds of people at the memorial service. Veterans from the British Legion formed an honor guard.
Eileen was a hero. Her work as a spy took a lot of courage, especially in a time when sexism was very prominent. She took the challenge and did what she believed needed to be done. She endured many hardships as she worked and had been poorly treated, but her bravery pushed her to continue her heroic activism. As Agent Rose once said, "Never be afraid, never let them dominate you."